Good to have you with us, and welcome to Arirang News, live from our studio in Seoul. I'm Na Hyun-kyung. Let's start with the stories we are following at this hour. The man at the center of the ongoing document leak scandal, Jeong Yun-hoe, faces prosecutors on this Wednesday. This as President Park urges cabinet members to behave better. Korean Air's vice president, also the daughter of the group's chairman, apologizes over her so-called nut rage incident, but the public is still angry about how everything turned out. And a U.S. Senate report on the interrogation techniques used by the CIA on terror suspects between 2002 and 2006 is revealed. Critics say the techniques were ineffective. The CIA says they kept America safe. But we begin with a growing scandal at Korea's presidential office. A former close aide to President Park Geun-hye, who's facing allegations of meddling in state affairs, is appearing before prosecutors today. Jeong Yun-hoe is being questioned over his possible involvement in the leak of a document that suggests he met with senior presidential officials on a regular basis, despite holding no formal post within the administration. It's alleged that Jeong was attempting to undermine current members of President Park's staff during the meetings. Jeong denies the charges against him.
And I believe we will know who started this fire and who helped fan flames.
Now, although the president had flatly denied those allegations, as you can imagine, this is affecting President Park's approval ratings too. For more on how she is dealing with this and other controversies, here's our presidential office correspondent, Choi Yoo-sun.
Days after vehemently dismissing a recent media report alleging her former aide has been exercising influence over state affairs, President Park Geun-hye at Tuesday's cabinet meeting further tightened her grip on the administration.
모든 언행이 사적인 것이 아니라 국민을 바라보고 행하는 그런 사명감에 충실할 수밖에 없습니다.
This was likely in response to former Culture Minister Yoo Jin-young claiming that President Park had personally ordered dismissals of personnel within his ministry, which fanned allegations that some of the president's aides were abusing their influence. The presidential office last Friday denied Yoo's claims. Despite President Park's firm stance, pollster Realmeter says support ratings for the president dropped days following the November 28th media report. A group of the ruling party's first and second-term lawmakers, meanwhile, urged the president to turn the situation into an opportunity to reform her style of running the country, be more transparent in appointing personnel, and communicate better with officials and the public. The prosecution's investigation into the leaked document in the media report will soon announce its findings. But what the public is more concerned about is how the president will make her administration more transparent and improve the current system of running the country. Choi Yoo-sun, Arirang News.
Over at the National Assembly, although they passed some 140 bills yesterday on the last day of this year's regular parliamentary session, rival party lawmakers still have a lot of things to make compromises on. The leaders of the two main parties are meeting this afternoon. Our Ji Myung-gil has more.
Heading into next week's extraordinary session, Korea's two rival parties are determined to reach agreement on a number of pending issues. The chiefs and floor leaders of the two parties will try to find a compromise today.
We will focus on reforming the pension system for civil servants, carrying out necessary parliamentary audits, and revising electoral districts.
We should come to a conclusion on parliamentary audits of government corruption allegations by the end of the year.
However, the two parties face a bumpy road ahead. The ruling Saenuri Party says reforming the pension program for civil servants is necessary to lessen the burden on future generations as deficits are snowballing. But the opposition party, while admitting the need for sweeping reforms, says the government needs to first establish a body to gain social consensus. The two parties also continue to differ on when to carry out a parliamentary audit of the former Lee Myung-bak administration's 4 major rivers restoration project and a recent corruption scandal in the defense industry. Regarding the next plenary session in late December, the two parties' leaders and floor leaders will seek to pass key economic revitalization bills, including 3 real estate bills and bills to boost the service industry sector. Jeong Yun-hoe, Arirang News.
And in a message ahead of the ASEAN-Korea Commemorative Summit, President Park says the 10 ASEAN member countries having diplomatic relations with both South and North Korea can be of great help as Seoul prepares for a peaceful unification of the peninsula. She added a unified Korea would contribute to peace across East Asia as well. Now, celebrating just how much Korea and ASEAN have developed ties since first opening dialogue 25 years ago, President Park said the two sides should forge ahead with an aim of enhancing the quality of life for their respective citizens. The two-day ASEAN-Korea Summit will begin in the southern port city of Busan tomorrow. And staying with the president, before heading to Busan, President Park met with her Malaysian counterpart on Wednesday. During talks with Prime Minister Najib Razak at the presidential office, the Korean president spoke highly of Kuala Lumpur's reform and development initiatives. She also referred to Korea's past participation in Malaysia's infrastructure projects. This comes as Seoul is seeking to win bids in a highway project that would link the Southeast Asian nation with Singapore. Prime Minister Najib said he also hoped to expand cooperation with Korea. And now going back to the ASEAN-Korea Summit, there's high anticipation that the meeting will take economic ties between the two sides to the next level. Hwang Ji-hye takes a closer look.
Despite the slumping global economy, Korea's trade volume with ASEAN has been on a steady rise, thanks to a free trade agreement between the two parties and the Korean wave that boosted demand for Korean products and services. Since 2007, after a free trade deal went into effect, the trade volume between Korea and ASEAN rose more than 11% on average every year and exceeded the $100 billion mark for the first time in 2011. ASEAN now stands as Korea's second largest trading partner following China. But when looking at their economic relationship in the longer term, experts point out the excessive trade surplus that Korea is recording with the Southeast Asian group.
The huge trade deficit ASEAN is posting with Korea will become a thorny issue as both parties try to strengthen their economic cooperation. The trade imbalance will have to be resolved down the road.
The ASEAN Economic Community that's set to be established next year, however, is expected to become a new opportunity for Korea to further expand ties. The community aims to achieve regional economic integration with a single market and production base, making it easier for Korean companies to do business there. During the two-day summit in Busan, Asian leaders will also lay out a blueprint for cooperation and set a new goal of increasing trading volume to $200 billion by 2020. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
As for the diplomatic implications of the two-day summit, South Korea is expected to call on its friends in Southeast Asia to help it deal with North Korea's nuclear weapons program. Our Hwang Sung-hee reports.
When it comes to diplomatic cooperation, South Korea and the ASEAN countries are at a clash of interest. South Korea is seeking support for its efforts to counter North Korea's nuclear weapons program, but its Southeast Asian partners are hesitant since the issue already involves the big powers like the United States and China. The ASEAN nations want Seoul to stand on their side in the South China Sea maritime dispute against Beijing, something that could shake up South Korea's relations with China. All this will be up for discussion when President Park Geun-hye meets the leaders of 10 ASEAN countries in Busan later this week. The Korea-ASEAN Commemorative Summit will be another occasion for dialogue among the middle power nations, along with the ASEAN Regional Forum and the ASEAN Plus 3. Since the 10 nations attending the upcoming summit have diplomatic ties with both Koreas, they could play a unique role on the Korean peninsula.
By explaining the situation on the Korean peninsula from our point of view and making the ASEAN countries aware, they can act as a bridge between South and North Korea. They can also indirectly deliver their objective perspective on a certain issue to Pyongyang.
And since Southeast Asian countries, namely Thailand and Laos, are one of the most taken routes for North Korean defectors, cooperation on that issue could be one of the informal agenda items at the upcoming meeting. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
In the year 2012 for Korea was at its record high.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Jeong Yun-hoe, live from Seoul.
Shopping market thinks the true meaning of creation shines through. Korean Air Vice President Cho Hyun-ah, the eldest daughter of Chairman Jeong Yun-hoe, has decided to step down from her post of overseeing the company's flight services following what many are now calling the nut rage. But apparently, that's not enough to quell the public outrage. Connie Lee has more.
She's the center of public attention these days. Local papers and social media networks are hamming it up with Cho Hyun-ah and her nut rage, making her the star of some mocking cartoons and drawings. Take a look at this mock-up poster of Nut Air, an homage to one Hollywood movie. Amid the controversy, Cho resigned from all her posts related to Korean Air flight services on Tuesday. But the public outrage continues over her tantrum related to some macadamia nuts. Cho made a flight from New York to Seoul, turned back to the gate when a flight attendant served her nuts in a bag instead of on a plate, apparently not giving her some first-class service. Citizens took to social media to express their anger. This act shows her huge sense of entitlement, said one, while another called her actions like that of an emperor's daughter. There were others who were calling this incident an international disgrace. Maybe so. This nutty incident made international headlines and even got a Japanese cartoon drawing of a mock-up of what happened inside the plane. And the fact that she will retain her title as VP and continue to be on the board of directors for Korean Air is making some question if her role within the company will change that much. The 40-year-old eldest daughter of Korean Air chairman Jeong Yun-hoe has apologized, but this might not be enough. The Korean government is currently investigating if her actions broke air traffic safety laws or any regulations. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Moving on, Korea's import prices, a leading indicator of future consumer inflation, dropped to their lowest level in 5.5 years last month on the back of falling oil prices. The Bank of Korea's import price index stood at 91 in November compared to the benchmark 100. It's the lowest level seen since May 2009 and extends the falling streak for 9th straight month. Import prices dropped in the first half of the year on the strengthening Korean currency and in the second half on tumbling crude prices. Price of Dubai crude has plunged 29% since June. The number of new jobs added in Korea last month rebounded for the first time since August. Data from Statistics Korea shows the number of people in work stood at nearly 26 million in November, up roughly 440,000 from a year earlier. The agency attributes the growth to greater job creation in the health and social welfare services sector and the construction industry, boosted by the country's improving housing market. Korea's jobless rate, however, edged up last month from last year to 3.1%. Now, the U.S. Senate report on how CIA agents interrogated terror suspects following the 9/11 attacks is out. It contains detailed and at times graphic details about what critics call torture tactics and how they may have been ineffective in obtaining information. Shin Se-min has the latest.
Forced nudity, waterboarding, sleep deprivation, and being chained down in makeshift dungeons. It sounds like something out of a horror movie, but it was reality for suspected al-Qaeda operatives following the 9/11 attacks in the United States. These were the heavy-handed tactics carried out by members of the Central Intelligence Agency.
Detainees were often subject to harsh and brutal interrogation and treatment because CIA analysts believe, often in error, that they knew more information than what they had provided.
The summary of a report released Tuesday by the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee shows that the CIA's interrogation methods far more brutal than previously disclosed, and that the agency was misleading Americans about what it was doing. It also found that the methods weren't even effective. This missing CIA claims the interrogation techniques had helped to secure information that eventually led to the killing of al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. The report says that piece of information was obtained before detainees were systematically tortured. The Senate Intelligence Committee also found that at least 26 of the CIA's estimated 119 detainees were wrongfully held. Known as rendition, detention, and interrogation, the interrogation program lasted until 2007. CIA Director John Brennan, in response to the Senate report, admitted that missteps were made. He said the agency had learned from its mistakes, but also took issue with the report's characterization that the detention and interrogation program was ineffective. Brennan said the interrogations produced intelligence that helped thwart attack plans, capture terrorists, and save lives. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
More headaches for smartphone-based car service Uber. It has been banned this time in Spain and Thailand after being hit with restrictions in India and the Netherlands this week. A Spanish judge ruled in favor of the Madrid Taxi Association that had argued Uber's services amounted to unfair competition by drivers not authorized to provide cab services. In Thailand, the government said Uber's credit card system did not comply with rules and that its drivers were not insured nor registered to drive for-profit vehicles. Now, if you remember, a committee at the United Nations recently approved a resolution denouncing North Korea's grave human rights violations. International attention on the North is building, but what do regular South Koreans think about the issue? Our Kwon So-ah went to find out.
The people in our country don't know just how happy their lives really are, and I feel so sorry for the North Korean people.
I feel bad that they're living under a repressive government.
Something should clearly be done, especially since the UN is taking action. Now's the best time for this problem to be resolved.
The world knows it's happening. Human rights violations in North Korea have been denounced for decades, but nothing could be done to prevent them. More than 70% of South Koreans think human rights issues in the North are very serious. But Shin Dong-hyuk, the only North Korean defector who was born, raised in, and successfully escaped from a concentration camp, says South Koreans are not aware of the scale of the problem. A documentary on his life, Camp 14 Total Control Zone, shows what life is like for the camp's 15,000 prisoners. Shin says they are treated like animals, with no freedoms at all. While the North denies the existence of such camps, satellite images show otherwise. Prisoners are subjected to extreme hunger, torture, and public executions. To raise awareness, Shin stresses the importance of international pressure on the North. But Shin says he's disappointed with South Korea's efforts.
After I travel around and speak with the UN or EU or international NGOs and come back to Korea, I spend my days quietly with not much to do. Korean NGOs work very hard, but parliament and society's perception is very different compared to other countries, and that's a little regrettable.
There are other opinions too.
The government should be cautious in dealing with the North's human rights issues, as that could lead to side effects such as hindering reunions of separated families. In the long run, talks for reunification.
And what does the South Korean public think? A recent poll found around half of South Koreans want the government to actively intervene in the North's human rights issues. Nearly 40% say the issue should be left to the North. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
With only a few weeks left in the year, many people are looking for performances they can enjoy with their families. Our Im Yun-hee joins us today with a few good options that we might consider, right?
Yes. So good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have going to be honest, I've been waiting for the holiday season probably since the end of last year's holiday season, right? But if you're not quite ready for the Nutcracker or for other Christmas performances, you're in luck. There are a few other nice performances to check out. Now, amongst them, a couple of these plays have cast the help of some very famous actors. Take a look.
One of Korea's legendary heroes, An Jung-geun's life and tragic death are played out on this stage. It's an inspirational tale of one man's ultimate sacrifice for his country, with the screenplay written by Yoon Suk-hwa, starring the multi-talented actor Song Il-guk as a fallen hero.
Through An Jung-geun's son, you can see how difficult the independence move was, as well as how much the family suffered. The play makes you think about all of the casualties.
Charles Dickens' classic novel, Great Expectations, has now been turned into a stage performance. Pip is an orphan from the countryside, and through a series of events, he encounters individuals who help shape his life. The tale follows Pip, played by actor Kim Seok-hoon, on his trek to realizing his great expectations.
In the beginning, he's a simple and naive boy, but later he is polished to be a real gentleman. But the journey is very difficult.
We've all been through it. Puberty, something most everyone can relate to. These group of students celebrate their coming of age. But of course, with life, there's always the unexpected, making things a lot more interesting during the process.
I believe the Korean title for that play is Hachungi, but
Right.
I noticed that the English title is Walpurgis Night.
Exactly. So actually, Walpurgis Night is considered the night that witches get together in the beginning of the year. A lot of folktale origins behind that. And they get together in anticipation of the spring. And so they use that for this particular performance to relate it to how students anticipate the next chapter of their life as they get ready to exit high school and go to college. You know, and high school students have so much pressure on them, especially with the student test, you know, the biggest test of their career. And so a lot of pressure, but they really do anticipate and look forward to the next chapter.
And we also saw actor Song Il-guk in the
Right.
one that you mentioned in the very beginning. And it's not the first time, I believe, that he's playing that role.
Exactly. So this play is very interesting. It actually takes a unique twist to the story. So it's based on real life events, but actually the actor, he plays both An Jung-geun as well as An Jung-geun's son. And so it's a really unique twist to that particular approach. But like you said, it's really true to what he's played in the past, his past roles, a lot of action-packed roles, and he said that he really likes to play these kinds of roles, both on TV and on the stage, and so you'll see that. Definitely a good show to check out.
Right, and when he was playing it in the years before, it was very popular, so I'm thinking that it will be the same this time, too.
It's always a hit.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Jeannie, for today's report.
My pleasure.
Hello everyone, I'm Shaw Park here with the latest weather forecast. We're finally getting a break from the cold. Both the morning lows and daytime highs are higher than yesterday, and we are right around the average temperatures for this time of the year. However, we won't be seeing the sun today due to the heavy cloud cover that's bringing some precipitation as well, either rain or snow depending on where you are. Now, about 1 centimeter of snow will fall in most parts of the country, while the Gangwon-do and Chungcheongbuk-do provinces can expect a bit more, upwards of 5 centimeters. And to our readings for today, Seoul will peak to 4 degrees this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will top to 8 and 14 degrees. And moving over to other regions, Jeju Island tops to 15, Dokdo hits a bit lower at 8, while Mankungang tops out just at -1. Well, that's all for now. Michelle Park, and have a wonderful day.
And that's Arirang News for now. Thanks for watching. If you want more updates, do join us again at 4 p.m. Korea time.